What are some unexpected or hidden powers that politicians have that most people wouldn't necessarily know or value?
That's a great question.
Hello, everybody. I appreciate you guys tuning in yet for another awesome podcast here on Suits and Shoes. We're wrapping up season one. This is our 11th episode. We'll do one more episode. Today, I have a very special guest as our Missouri State Representative, Alex. Alex has quite the journey that he's gone through, and I'd like to start by just highlighting, from early childhood, and we'll cover, your high school
Yeah.
years and law school, and you just recently got selected to be, you recently got nominated, I guess, or is it voted in? How does that work?
Yeah, voted in.
Voted
So
in as the House lead? Is it House?
House Majority Floor
House
Leader is the
Majority
official
for I like
title.
it. And so my first question, it catches most guests off guard, but having such success both politically and your family and three little kiddos, what does it take to be Alex?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me and showing me the incredible business that you've built in just a short amount of time. Absolutely amazing. Um, I think we're pretty similar in that um, hard work is one of the things that really drives me. So, born and raised here in Springfield, um, grew up in a probably a you would consider it a middle class family. My dad was a nurse here in town. My mom was a nurse and then stayed home once she had me
Yeah,
and my siblings, and homeschooled me and my siblings from kindergarten all the way through high school. But definitely throughout our entire growing up years, both of our parents, or both of my parents, instilled us with those hard work
yeah.
values. And I think that's been the key for whatever success that I've had, whether it's on the legal practice side or in the political arena, is just working hard.
Yeah. I want to start from your early childhood because I feel like that really sets the stage for you as an individual and something a lot of people, um, not that they could relate to, but could hear of what life challenges look like. You just turned 17, 2 3 months go by, and you're diagnosed with cancer. Walk me through that chapter of your life.
Yeah. So throughout my entire teen years, my whole goal was to go into the military. That was the goal. Um, September 11th was a big impact on my growing up years, and I really wanted to serve the country, and I wanted to go into the military. So that had been the goal. And then shortly, as you mentioned, when I was 17, was diagnosed with cancer, and that changes that whole
Yeah,
life trajectory, and everything I'd been working to up until that point. It all changed. So as I mentioned, was homeschooled, so start had to go up to St. Louis for my chemotherapy treatments. We didn't have anything here in Springfield that would take care of what I needed.
yeah,
Um, so went up there for 6 7 months, something like that, for chemo, and it was challenging because I recognized at the time, okay, this is changing all of life's goals, and kind
yeah,
of like you, I'm a very goal oriented person, has been my entire life.
yeah,
um, and then realizing, to be honest, I think that was the hardest thing about the cancer diagnosis. Wasn't so much I was worried about the cancer. I was like, oh, we can beat that. It
wow,
was the frustration over realizing that my goals were going to have to change, and I was going to
wow,
have to pivot. So um, I have always been a pretty debt averse person. So as I was looking forward to college, I started to look around and decide, okay, well, military, the military academies are not going to be an option for me. But I don't necessarily just want to go to a 4 year school and
right,
incur thousands of dollars of debt and maybe come out and not have that great of an income and put myself in a hole that I may never be able to get out of. So as I was going through my chemo treatments, I started to look at, all right, well, college is right around the corner. How am I going to navigate that and get through it as quickly as I can, and then get into the workforce to start living my American dream. And what I found was an opportunity to start testing out of classes, testing out of college classes. So as I was finishing up my chemo, as I was finishing my senior year of high school, I started testing out of college classes. And before long, I tested out of 3/4 of those college classes. Was pronounced cancer-free right before my 18th birthday. It was the best birthday present ever. And then finished my political science degree and graduated when I was 19 with my political science degree.
Wow, that's extraordinary. I think too many times people, especially the young adults today, get discouraged when their TikTok venture doesn't take off, or influencer collaboration doesn't work out, or a business fails. And here you are at 17 handed, hey, here's cancer and taking away all your dreams. What do you think helped you pivot and find an alternative goal in life?
I think there are probably a lot of components to it. Certainly my faith was a big piece of it. That was something that I was able to really lean into, certainly during that period, but throughout all of life. But recognizing that, yes, this is a challenging dynamic that I'm dealing with, but God's in control and he's going to take care of it, and other doors are going to open. And it's my job to just work as hard as I can and to follow his will and to walk through those doors as they open. And I think that was one of the things that I definitely leaned into the most, was realizing, okay, this is frustrating because it's not the plan that I wanted, but recognizing that maybe there are other plans that are better than the ones that I created for myself.
When you decided to go into law school, do you feel like you were settling for plan B, or do you think it was actually like fulfilling and you felt like you were just pursuing a greater calling?
So kind of an interesting story about how I ended up going to law school. So that was never the plan growing up. Obviously military was what I wanted to do. Even when I was shifting and starting to look at other directions, going to law school was not on the radar at that point. So after I finished my degree, earned it, I wasn't totally sure what I was going to end up doing, to be honest. It was kind of a challenging dynamic. I knew I wanted to do something in the political arena. Throughout my whole life, I'd actually worked on campaigns. So I started knocking doors on political campaigns when I was 12 years old. Worked on campaigns every cycle after that. So I always knew I wanted to do something in the political arena. At the same time, when I was 19, I had also been dating my girlfriend at the time. We were in high school. We started dating when I was in high school. And both of us knew that we wanted to get married sooner rather than later. And I knew that there weren't a whole lot of political jobs for 19-year-old, 20-year-old, 20-somethings where you could earn a decent wage to support a family. So I started looking around and ultimately took a job as a paralegal at a law firm here in Springfield. And I took it because I thought, okay, law kind of matches, like there's some overlap between interest in law and interest in the political arena. I'll work here for a few years and then see if some other opportunities arise in the political arena was the plan. Ultimately, though, I really enjoyed the work. So I worked at a firm that primarily worked with businesses, business owners, defending businesses when they get sued in lawsuits, defending hospitals, working with doctors, that kind of thing. And I really found that I loved the work. I enjoyed the work. And there were some attorneys there that really took me under their wing, and they brought me up to their office one day and they said, hey, have you ever thought about going to law school? You seem like you might be a good fit for this profession. And until they said that, I hadn't really thought about it, to be honest. Um, so I ultimately went and took the law school admissions test, thinking, okay, if I do great, then cool, I'll walk through that door and we'll do that.
Yeah.
But also realizing or thinking, but if it doesn't go that well, then you know, I'm not going to be completely distraught. This wasn't necessarily the dream that I had
Yeah.
for myself, so not the end of the world. So eventually, I took it, did fairly well, got a few scholarship offers, and I took the best one,
That's
and
awesome.
ended up going to law school in Southern Illinois. Graduated toward the top of the class, and then
Wow.
came back home to Springfield and started practicing law.
Congratulations. That's it's so interesting how you highlight that. I remember mine. Mine probably wasn't so severe, but through high school, I thought I was going to be a pilot. And I remember senior year, I already picked an airline. I was like arranging my first internship, and I go, and one of the requirements is go get your eyes tested. And I
Yep.
come in, I'm doing really well, and then I'm sitting in the doctor's office, and they hand me this little booklet with like a bunch of dots on it. I'm like flipping the pages. I'm like, this is so weird. Why is there just so many dots? And I go
Oh
through the whole
no.
book, and the doctor looks at it. I mean, says, Paul, I'm really sorry to tell you this, but you're colorblind. You can't be a pilot. And it was so crushing in that moment, literally, like the one thing I wanted to do. But I found that the alternative path that I believe God had laid out for me in going into college, in the early moments of my college time, was kind of devastating. I really didn't like what I was doing. But boy, when I graduated and I jumped into work and started my own business, I felt even more fulfilled in all of that. And I couldn't think of a better way. And looking back, I'm like, I don't know what I was thinking wanting to be a pilot. So let's transition now into your family life.
Yeah.
So you're in politics.
Right.
You're a Republican.
Yes, that's right.
In 2024, going into
Right.
2025, how or what kind of toll does that take on your family?
It definitely is tricky. I think one of the things that's been so helpful for my family is um, the fact that my wife and I have been together for a long time. So we've
Mm.
been married for 10 years, but we started dating shortly. Well, it was around the same time I got diagnosed with cancer,
Oh wow.
actually. So we've been through a lot of battles through life together already, even before we entered the political arena. So we got married right after my first year of law school. And that's a bit taxing
Yeah.
when all of my lawyer friends and a lot of my law school classmates, they were all like, oh, don't get married while you're in law school, that's so challenging because of the time
Yeah.
constraints and just the time commitment with school. You're just not going to have as much time to build that relationship on that solid foundation that you need to. Like, don't do it.
Right.
So the compromise was we got married during school and not right before school, and it worked. And it worked out. It was challenging, but it ultimately worked out. And I think that's one of the things that has made the transition into political life for the family
Yeah.
easier. Is we've been through some challenging circumstances
Yeah.
already, whether it was cancer, whether it was school and getting started with a legal
Right.
practice. I
Yeah.
mean, that's, as you well know, as a fairly young business owner yourself, there's nothing easy about getting off the ground and
Yeah.
building something successful. It takes a lot of time and effort, maybe a few tears here and there too. And that created that solid foundation for us that we've been through hard times. We know what it's like, and we weren't phased by
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just trying to work hard to make sure that the family knows they always come first,
That's amazing.
whether it regardless of whether it's the political side or the law firm side. Like, they come before all of that. Everything that we're doing on those other fronts is to try and create a better life for the family, and I think that's helpful.
Yeah, I definitely know how challenging that can be. I've fostered 11 children in the last 5 years,
Yes,
in addition to building multiple companies.
that's right.
And people ask me all the time, how do you balance it? And I always say it's not a matter of balancing, it's a matter of prioritizing.
That's right.
And
That's right.
if you can prioritize your time and allocate that time to what's most important to you, whether it's career, family, faith, or hopefully all three,
Right.
including your work, then it really works out. As a majority leader for the Republican Party, how does your family, more so probably your children, impact or influence your decisions and what you do within your political career?
Yeah. So we had my son was born right as we were launching my first campaign. And then my daughter was born right before I got sworn in to office for the first time. So we had them pretty close together.
Wow.
Um, and when that's sort of the circumstances of life that you're going through as you're running your first campaign and as you're going through the legislature in those first few sessions trying to figure out the lay of the land, for me everything I do is centered on trying to create a better life for them, trying to create a better Missouri for them where they'll want to stay and have the same types of opportunities that you and I have had here in this state. So it's fun because I try and bring them up to the Capitol whenever I can.
Yeah.
They know a lot of the other representatives well. They call them Uncle so and so and Aunt so and so, and they're on a first name basis with people, and they've kind of grown up at the Capitol, which has been cool. They've had a lot of neat experiences that a lot of kids don't necessarily get to have. So that's been one of the fun things with having young kids. So they're young. My oldest is 5, my daughter is 3, and then my youngest son just turned 2. But trying to stay focused on and they're great to help you stay grounded and not ever get a big head, because ultimately you're the best title that you'll ever have. The best title I ever have is dad.
Yeah.
And I think that just helps keep you focused on what's really important and focused on why we're doing what we're doing.
That's so inspiring. I remember what really changed my perspective and view of what role children play in our careers was seeing a post by Elon Musk bringing his kids to work. And literally, like the day after, I brought one of my foster kiddos to work, and I'm holding her in my hands as I'm on the phone at my desk working. And one of my employees snapped a picture and posted it online, and it went viral. And ever since then, not because of the reason it went viral, but since that moment where I got to spend a day with my kiddos at work doing what I'm passionate about, it felt like the perfect trifecta, whatever you want to call it, of wow, you don't need to juggle it. You can harmonize it.
That's right.
I think so many times people try to put it in almost different category. Okay, here's my faith, here's my work, here's my family.
Yeah.
And it's almost like not two-faced, but I guess it'd be three-faced.
Right.
It's like, why not find a way to bring it in harmony together?
100% agree with that.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about your faith before we dive deep into your career and business and politics and all of that. What role does your faith play within your work?
I think that is really the thing that guides everything I do. And for me, as a Christian, that just means treating other people well. It means being honest. It means doing what you say you're going to do. And I know for a lot of folks, they have this probably accurate perception with a lot of politicians and with a lot of politics that it's just a bunch of slimy people. They're liars. They're stabbing each other in the back. And I think there is a lot of that happens. I think there's less of that happens at the state level than we see at the federal level, and there's probably less that happens than maybe people think. But for me, just following those tenets of treating other people well, treating them the way that you would want to be treated, being honest, that has proven to be successful. People like that. People respect it, and I think it's a positive sign that you can still adhere to those beliefs and act that way and be successful in the business world, in the political world, and it just dictates everything for me.
That's amazing. I've had my own personal experience firsthand on how important faith is in my work and my beliefs and my views. I recently made a post. I just recorded a video, me voting, and I said, "Hey, I voted." I think I said, no, I didn't say I voted. I said, Mr. Trump, Kehoe, um, Hawley, et cetera,
Yep.
Bailey, just down the
Yep.
Republican list. I did my part. Now, gentlemen, it's your turn to do your part. And I had a few people, some of them prospects, some of them clients, saying, "Hey, we're no longer going to do business with you." And if you look at the scope of it, it'll probably cost me millions of dollars
Yeah.
making one post.
Right.
Well, thankfully, I have a pretty amazing team, and they screenshotted it and they put it on my social media, and it too went viral. And the money we generated
Yes.
from that
That's
far
right.
exceeded it. And same with my faith. I see it so many times where if you're vocal about what you believe in, if you start even starting a meeting with prayer, it can sometimes offend people. But the cost or the repercussion of not doing that, I think, is far greater. Because if we look at whether it's millions of dollars or someone finding offense to it, it's not that big or that great in the grand scheme of things. When you look at the impact your faith can have in your work and the lives of other people. I don't know if you saw the video, but at the Trump campaign where they sang that worship song,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's gotten millions of views, and it's changing people's lives. And people are like, "Wow, there's hope," and it's not all slimy politics.
That's right.
Speaking of the slimy stuff that's going on, I'm asked quite often, true or not true, and you don't have to answer this question, but politicians are ran by business owners. What's your view on that?
So I would say not true in that I don't think that they run politicians. I think that business owners are an important stakeholder in the process,
Oh,
and
I
I
like that.
think that we as um, politicians are wise to listen to business owners because it's the business owners that are building our communities.
Yeah.
You have so many politicians that like to run around both on the Republican and the Democrat side. Anytime the jobs numbers come out, oh, I created 400,000 new jobs across the country. And it's like, no, you didn't. At best, we as politicians, if we're not also business owners,
Yeah.
at best, politicians can create an economic environment or allow for an economic environment that allows you as a business owner to thrive and do well and hire people and innovate and do creative things to serve the public
Yeah.
and to create a product or a service that the public wants. But we don't create jobs. We don't create economic growth. You do that. And I think that for the politicians that go around thinking they're the ones that are creating all this
Mm.
stuff, um, that's just false. Like that's a completely delusional view of the world and your own
Wow.
self-importance. And I think it's downright foolish for politicians not to listen to people who are actually on the ground creating jobs, building our communities. So to the extent that we're not listening to business owners, I think that is an absolutely ridiculous thing. I think that we should be, and I think that you should have influence
Yeah.
within government because everything we do impacts you. We can either make your life harder or take the gloves off and let you do the amazing things as a business owner that you want to do.
Yeah.
And we'll probably get to this, but that's why, to be honest, I ran for office in the first place. So, like I mentioned, most of my law practice has been spent working with business
Yeah.
owners, people who, like you, want to start a business, they have an idea, they're innovators, they want to live the American dream, whatever that looks like for them.
Yeah.
But far too often, government throws so many roadblocks in your way that it makes it hard for you to even take off.
Yeah.
You've been able to navigate that, but I know there's tens of thousands, if not millions, across our country who would like to do that, but because of the ridiculous regulations and red tape that government throws in your way, they aren't able to do that.
Yeah.
Far too often, you have people that have to come to lawyers like me pay me the ridiculous amounts of money that I charge,
Yeah.
and just to comb through the government regulations to make sure that you're in compliance and you're jumping through all the hoops that you have to, so you don't have somebody in a dark suit with the shades showing up on your front porch one day
Yeah.
and shutting down your business.
Yeah.
And that just frustrates me to no end. It's frustrated me throughout my entire legal practice with that recognition and seeing it from the side that I do, where it's you got some person who just wants to start a mom and pop shop on the corner and doesn't know how, or isn't able
Right.
to do it because of all the ridiculous hoops that government puts in your way,
Yeah.
and they have to hire people to walk them through it. And I recognize that there's a lot of folks that don't have the means to do that, and
Yeah.
we're just shutting off so much innovation before it even has a chance to take off, and I hate that.
Yeah.
So that's why I ran for office in the first place, was to start tackling that and to try and work on that, so our state can be one of the most innovative and business friendly in the country. That's what
Yeah.
I want. Like I said, I want Missouri to be a place where my kids want to stay because they have opportunities,
Yeah.
and they're not going to do that if government is so suppressive that it keeps them from doing the good things that they want to do.
Yeah, it's I mean, you hit it right on the nail. It's unbelievable the challenges even we face, and
Right.
I think Missouri is probably one of the greatest. I think Governor Parson said we're number 4 out of all the states, but talking to fellow business owners, especially on the West Coast, it's unreal the pushback and the politics and just all the red tape. And here, I've been fortunate as a business owner to have those personal connections and the doors that have been opened for me. A lot of times I haven't even had to knock, is because of leaders like yourself that have stepped in and done that. So from one business owner to another, I really appreciate that, but I'm sure you already know how valuable that is for us. I want to ask you this: what is one thing that you've experienced in your political career that you just weren't really expecting, that it just really caught you off guard, something that you didn't know was a part of being a politician?
I think I get that question with some frequency, and I'm going to give you a couple of positive things. So I think one of the things that I have appreciated the most about being on this side of it, where you get to actually know this crazy cast of characters
Yeah.
that call themselves or frequently claim not to be politicians but
Yeah.
are actually politicians, um, is I truly do believe that most of the people run, whether they have a R or a D next to their name, because they are truly trying to make the state better or make their
Yeah.
community better. Um, and I think that is something that I didn't necessarily believe going into this. I think I probably was more on the side of they're all shysters and only a couple of them are good. And
I
I
still
think,
think
and,
that.
and that's fair. Um, I think being on this side of it, and having at this point 4 years under my belt in elected service, is seeing most of them run for office because they view it as their little way to save the world. They're
Mm,
trying to do good things for their community at the beginning. I
yeah.
think some people shift over time, but especially at the beginning. And maybe the ratio is more like 90% are doing it for good reasons, even though I sometimes disagree with the way they're going about it. And maybe there's only about 10% that started off as shysters, or they
Yeah.
stayed shysters the whole time, and they were just running because they wanted the power, the
Yeah.
real or perceived, that
Yeah.
elected office holds. So I'd say that's one of the things that surprised me the most, but on a positive side.
Yeah.
I think on a negative side, one of the things that's been surprising, and probably the thing that's frustrated me the most, is the degree to which personal pettiness governs a lot of what actually happens in Jefferson City. It's not necessarily policy agreements. It's petty fights over other things that aren't even policy related.
Yeah.
And I'm all about a good policy fight. I'm all about a good debate. But when progress stalls because certain people just don't like certain people, I don't have any patience for that.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that frustrates me the most about politics, both here in Missouri and across the country. I think we see more and more of that.
Yeah.
Um, so that's been one of the things that I've been trying to help reduce the amount of that goes on, especially on the House side, but even throughout the entire
Yeah.
legislative branch, is this idea of, and this was really central to my campaign as I was running for majority leader, is we need to get back to basics and remember why we all ran for office in the first place. It was, like I said, it was our little way to save the world.
Right.
And let's remember that the only way we actually do that is by focusing on policy solutions that actually affect the people in our communities every day.
Yeah.
That's what matters. That's why we did this. Let's get back to basics and focus on policy. And it shouldn't really matter whether I like you or not to decide whether I'm going to vote yes on your bill or whether I'm going to vote your bill out of my committee or things of that nature. What matters should be, is this a good bill? Is this a good policy idea that moves our state forward? And if the answer to that question is yes, then you should vote yes. You should move that bill forward.
Yeah.
You should move that idea forward. If the answer to that question is no, then the bill should die. Even if you're my best friend. If I've got plenty of friends up in the legislature who sometimes have some really bad ideas.
Yeah.
And just because they're your friend doesn't mean you should move that bill forward if it's going to be bad for the people of our state. And I think that's one of the things that we have to get back to is, yes, we should have good relationships, and yes, we should consider a lot of factors as we're deciding what to do with legislation. But at the end of the day, what we should be focused on is this good policy that moves our state forward in a conservative direction that's consistent with the principles that we all have. And that's what we need to be doing more of, I think.
It's so interesting listening to you describe, the almost like a day in the life. I want to come shout at you. It's
You'd be welcome to come on up.
Tell me what day I need to come shout at
Absolutely.
you. Let's take a trip to Gem City.
Love that.
It's like you're describing business.
Right.
Too many times business owners and startups, they go in, they hire a best friend, a wife, a sister, a parent, and it's like this one family culture. But unfortunately, you can't hold on to that. It's not sustainable.
Right.
I'll never forget the day we had to let one of my sisters go, and then maybe 6 months ago, my wife had to step out of the business and go get a higher education and finish her college degree. It's never easy doing that, but you really have to have the bigger picture in mind.
That's right.
I think personal biases and then favoritism, I think it kills not only businesses, but from what I'm hearing from you, politics as well.
That's right.
As a business owner, I have certain powers, I guess you can say. I have the ability to hire someone. I have the ability to fire someone. Now that we're buying, millions of dollars of product from vendors, it's becoming a lot harder to really, I feel like, make the right decision, because you realize, hey, let's just say vendor, I'm this vendor's number one client. They're probably sole source of income, and now there's a better new product, and having to make the ultimate decision of, should I bring my business from this vendor to this vendor, can potentially put that vendor out of business. We're talking hundreds of families.
Right.
And so as I look at all this, that's something I didn't expect. I didn't expect to have such authority and power, building the company we've built and are continuing to build here. What are some unexpected or hidden powers that politicians have that most people wouldn't necessarily know or value?
That's a great question. So I think most people recognize, all right, when you're dealing with the state legislature, they have the ability to make laws and things of that nature. We also have, and this is something that probably took me a year or so to figure out, is you have the ability to do a lot more than just that. So I'll give you an example that comes up all the time. We have folks that reach out to my office frequently that are having various troubles with state agencies, state departments. Frequently it's the motor vehicles. Everybody has troubles with the DMV. So frequently they'll reach out to us and let us know, hey, this terrible thing happened, or I've got something going on that it's been sitting on some government bureaucrat's desk for 6 months, and all I need them to do is sign it and be done. And we have the ability as state legislators to help move things along.
Really? Do tell more.
So frequently we can reach out to the state agencies and tell them, hey, I'm having a constituent that's having a particular problem with your department, with a particular individual in your department, or whatever the case may be. And more often than not, that will help resolve the problem.
Wow.
And on one hand, it's frustrating to me that so many people again have to come to their state legislator to make that happen, and that the departments won't just respond and do the right thing to take care of the person. Right. And they'll only do it when it's the state representative or the state senator that controls their budget telling them to address the problem and to fix awesome. It. But that is one thing that we do frequently that a lot of our constituents don't take advantage of.
Yeah.
So if there's one takeaway for the folks that live in Springfield or across the state, or across the country and other states that follow you, is to take advantage of developing those relationships with your state representative, with your state senator. And if you're having a problem with government it's just not working for you, yeah. They're not being responsive and taking care of the basic things that they're supposed to do, reach out and let us know, and fairly often we can help you get a good result. Yeah. Or sometimes there's something going on behind the scenes that they're just not communicating, and then we can help provide an answer, and then you at least know why the thing is happening that's happening. So those are some of the, I guess, the hidden powers that we have that can really help individuals when they're going through some tough circumstances.
Yeah, that's interesting you highlight that, because I notice as a business owner, there are those hidden powers, but then there's those quite visible powers. Right. Whenever you have a lot of money, it opens up a lot of opportunities.
Yeah.
But it also opens up temptations.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing that, I'll never forget, for example, the first lawsuit I was served. It was probably the most traumatizing thing ever. I wasn't ready or anticipating it. And I remember coming to my attorneys and I'm like, let's file 11 countersuits. Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this. And like, bro, that's not necessary. Like, this is easy. Like, you don't even need to show up to court. Like, we'll have this address. End of the week, you'll get some paperwork, sign it. Like, don't even think about this. I'm like, well, what do you mean? Like, why wouldn't I do all that? And they're like, well, that's your ego talking. And I sat there and I thought, like, wow, if you're not careful as a business owner, like, you can get yourself in some serious trouble.
Yep.
And that's just to mention one of many different things. I oftentimes see headlines, and whether it's a major publication or locally, the trouble business owners get themselves in. What are some things a politician can and does face in regards to abuse of power?
I think a lot of the problems will stem from after folks have been in office for a little while. If they forget why they ran in the first place. Again, we've got a bit of a theme going on with our conversation. But if you have people that forget, why did you run for office? Why did you knock all those thousands of doors and spend all those tens of thousands of dollars to get elected? And they get attracted to some of the real or perceived power that you have as legislators. I mean, you have one of the things that I remind myself frequently while I'm there is you have a lot of people that come up to you and act like they're your best friend.
Yeah.
And if you're not careful, you'll start to think, oh, I just have all these people who think I'm so great. They think I'm so smart. They think I'm so handsome. Whatever it is, they think I'm so powerful. When in reality, like, they just need something from you.
Yeah.
And that's part of the process. And I don't necessarily have a problem with it, but it gets to be a problem when you start to actually buy in to all the hype and you don't stop and think like, is this person actually my friend? No, they just
Yeah.
need something from me. A lot of things are just transactional. And I think when you have a lot of people start to buy into all of the hype that gets thrown on you, then your head starts to get big.
Yeah.
And once your head starts to get big, you start to make bad calculations. You start
Right.
to think you're invincible. You start to stop checking in with your colleagues and the people that you rely on for good advice, and maybe you start hanging out with the wrong crowd and you start listening to bad advice because the bad advice is just telling you how great you are, and the good advice is saying, hey, you're about to jump off a cliff, maybe you shouldn't do that. And it's a lot more fun to just think, oh, I'm awesome,
Yeah.
versus, oh, you're about to really screw up. I mean, human
Yeah.
nature is what it is, and we a lot of people like to take the easier path versus the stop and self-reflect and think about, am I actually doing the right thing? So I think most of those problems that and the temptations, as you refer to them, as those come up for legislators, all stem from, really, it's more of a pride thing and a
Yeah.
forgetting where you came from and why you're doing this in the first place.
Yeah, something that helps me get rooted or stay rooted is my mother. I don't think there's a single day that she doesn't contact me. Like if she doesn't text or call me, then something's really
Yep.
wrong. I'll get text in the morning, in the evening, and anytime there'll be a post, and it's like, maybe I'm being a little too flashy. She'll remind me, hey, you're being
Yep.
a little cocky there. Another person that's very important in my life is my wife, Nina, and she's probably my anchor and
Yep.
what keeps me rooted. And so if I've had a look, it's definitely good people in my life that keep me rooted. Do you feel like it's the same thing? Is that what helps you stay rooted as you accomplish a lot and in return get more and more power?
Yeah, 100%. I joke all the time. One of the best things for me to keep a small head is, when I get home on Thursday evenings from session in Jefferson City, is reminding myself, at the end of the day, I'm the dad. I'm the guy who takes out the trash when I come home, and I'm the guy who does the diapers when I come home, and like that. Those are the types of things that help keep you grounded and remember, hey, these are the things that are really important.
Yeah.
And you're never as powerful or important or great as the outside world can sometimes try and act like, or they make you feel like, when they're trying to get something from you. So those to your point, like, it's your family, it's your wife, it's the kids, those are the things that keep you grounded.
Exactly. It's all about the journey and the
Right.
process, and not so much the destination. On the topic of destination, what does your career look like? You're now at a majority lead for the Republican Party, and I mean that's a big step in what seems to open even more opportunities for you. Where do you see your career unraveling?
To be honest, and this isn't just a political answer, this is 100% the truth, is I'm truly focused on being the best majority leader that I can be over these next 2 years. So for the folks who may not be as in the weeds politically as you and I are, so what that position is that's the person that controls everything that happens on the House floor. That person decides what bills come up for debate, if they ever come up for debate. That person can control how long debate goes, can shut debate down, can decide when votes are taken or not. So the short reality of it is, no bill can make it to the governor's desk unless the majority leader allows it to happen.
Wow. So you're probably getting a lot of phone calls right about now.
It's an incredibly impactful position, but it's also one that, if you're just looking to the future and you're not focused on just doing the best job that you can do, that can really cause some people some problems. And we've seen that with prior majority leaders who they want they're the moment they're chosen as majority leader, they start thinking, well, how can I be the governor in 10 years? And none of those people have really been able to do that. They've failed. And for me, I just want to focus on being the best majority leader I can be in these 2 years. And then it's no secret, the goal is to be the Speaker of the House in my final session. There's right now that's been kind of the trajectory that leadership works in the House. So most folks, if they are chosen as majority leader, if they do a good job, if they continue to earn the trust of their colleagues, if they take care of their colleagues and move forward with our House Republican, our conservative agenda, then they're typically able to go on to be the Speaker of the House in their final session, and that's what I wanted to do.
Is there something that comes after Speaker of the House in regards to the path or journey someone like yourself or yourself would then proceed to take?
I think there's a lot of folks that they're after their speaker, they want to run for something else. We've had some that have tried, most fail. And I think there's a number of reasons for that. So in these leadership roles, you frequently make a lot of people mad because of that ability to either advance legislation or kill it.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes you can make, well, not sometimes, almost always you'll make some enemies.
Right.
And I think some of those folks have made some significant enemies. And for me, I recognize that being speaker could be the last elected office I ever have. I fully recognize that, and I'm okay with that. If I ultimately am not able to run for office in the future because I said no to a certain powerful special interest and make that special interest mad, but it's the right thing to do, I'm okay with that. For me, I want to do good things while I'm in elected office. I want to make our state a better place for business owners, for our economic conditions. I want to do those things. But if I finish my time in the House in 4 years and there's not other opportunities, I'm okay with that. I'll come home. I'll get to see my family more often. I'll get to practice law more often. That's okay. To me, it's really just focused on let's do the best we can in these 4 years. I'm thrilled to work with our next governor, Governor Kehoe. We have a good, strong relationship. I think we're getting ready to have a really good run as a state to take on some of these challenges that we've had. And just to get to be a part of that is extremely exciting. And I'm happy just to do that.
It's almost like you're describing, like if I was to take what you just said and replace it with running a business, it's the same thing.
Right.
In business, if you're doing it for the money, your likelihood of success, I think, is zero. I'm yet to hear anyone who's succeeded with a goal of just money. I remember when I started in my mom's garage, if someone told me I was going to make $1 million, I would have been like, first, that's impossible to make $1 million in a garage. Secondly, that's not my goal. Like I want freedom.
Right.
I want financial freedom. I want to work with my wife. I want my wife and my family to be a part of my work. I want a better future. Yep. I want something to pass on to my kiddos. And boom, 14 months in, we do 1.2 million.
Yep.
And then it's like, whoa. And then you just have one goal. Okay, I want to impact even more people. Another 12 months go by, boom, $4.2 million. And you're like, this is crazy. Like the more good that I'm doing, the more that I'm financially making. And the very few times, I could probably say one, maybe two occasions when I lost sight of that and I wanted to do it for the money or a quick, hey, I'm going to do this deal real quick, I'm going to make a lot of money, backfired. Yep. Like brutally backfired.
Yep.
Like backfired so much that I'll probably never do a quick deal or a shortcut or flip something on the side.
That's
because I've learned that there's no such thing as quick success or overnight millions, at least legally speaking, that I'm aware of. And I've been a part of a lot of different business ventures. As we continue these conversations and we start to wrap things up, I wanted to ask you about Missouri first and foremost, and secondly, and probably just as importantly, the country. So we got Trump in office. We have Governor Mike Kehoe stepping into office. The list goes on and on. Josh Hawley and Burleson and yourself. And it seems like, I don't like this quote, but I'm going to say the stars are aligning. What can we expect? What can we expect in these next 2 to 4 years? Because having so many strong leaders from the Republican Party in place, it seems like it opens the doors to every and all opportunities to do the right thing in making Missouri and America to the next level.
I agree with that 100%. So, in my first 4 years in the legislature, so much of what we've been having to do has been trying to fight back and push back against the federal government and the things that they're trying to um, hamper our state with. And I think the fact that we're not going to have to do that, hopefully, as much over these next 4 years is going to be incredibly helpful. And then hopefully, I mean, so like that. That's the bottom line is we're not going to have to be pushing back as much, and we may even get a little bit of a boost from the federal level.
Hopefully.
And that's going to be, I think, extremely significant, especially as we're trying to build our economic climate here in Missouri, create better business conditions when we're not constantly having to fight back against crazy EPA regulations
Right.
or what have you, that are driving up prices and driving up costs of doing business. That's going to be a huge shot in the arm
Yeah.
right there. And then that's going to free us up to spend more of our time trying to clean up some of the things that we need to in Missouri.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that. I think we've got a great team in place. And this election, we really defied all expectations, even here locally in Missouri. Most of the political prognosticators are saying, oh, it's going to be a pretty rough night for Republicans here in Missouri.
Mm.
We have a lot of really competitive House races and a
Yeah.
lot of competitive state Senate races, and we are projected to lose, 2, 3, 4 Senate seats, anywhere between 5 and 10 House seats,
Wow.
and that would have had a significant impact on us. And we didn't. We didn't lose any. We have the exact same numbers that we did coming into this election cycle, which I think is extremely helpful for those of us who have want to accomplish big conservative ideas.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of talk from our incoming governor about phasing out the state income tax. I think that's a fantastic idea.
On that note,
that-
do you think that's practical or realistic? Do you think that would actually
I
happen?
think there's a way that we can do that.
Really? Wow.
And because of having such good election results, we're going to have the votes that we need, I'm hoping, to do those types of big transformational things, doing things to help improve our education system across the state. Like the sky's the limit because of having those results and having the right people in place now, that I think we're going to be able to do a lot of those just really big transformational things on the economic side, on the education side, on the public safety side. A lot of those challenges that we've had in Missouri for a long time that we just can't quite get going the right direction. I think we're going to have some real opportunities over these next 4 years.
I could definitely use some of those opportunities.
Right.
I don't think people realize and also fail to understand the challenges that business owners, politicians, I think leaders, even in the nonprofit sector, face. It's not easy to lead an organization. I don't think it ever was, and it definitely isn't any easier today in the time and age of social media. I remember one time I was having a really good conversation with Governor Parson, and I asked him, what's the biggest challenge that you face? And he looks at me, smiles, he says, "Problem, I have 75,000 employees."
Right.
I'm like, wow, I thought almost 100 employees was a challenge.
Right.
Making sure everyone gets their paycheck in time, and a lot of times you're up late at night worrying about where the economy is going to go. RV sales are down right now, I think 76-7%. The last time sales were this low were 08, 09, and then you on a Friday afternoon, the marketing and the sales and accounting come and they pitch you these problems and they say, hey, we have to scale down operations and we have to let X amount of people go. And you spend the entire weekend like thinking, God, what do we do?
Right.
I made a promise 5 years ago when I started, I'd never fire anyone or lay anyone off. because of lack of money or not having enough sales. And you spend the entire weekend trying to create a unique way to increase sales, and you're up all night. And that's just a summary. I recently made a post of what my morning looks like, and the amount of stress it caused my following. I almost had to remove it. I had people call like, Paul, are you okay? Like, is your sanity fine? I overcome those challenges. I think my biggest um, strength is God. I don't know where I'd be without God.
Right.
The amount of business owners that turn to alcohol and drugs is unreal. But for me, it's God. I'm very blessed and fortunate to have an awesome massage therapist, and my doctor makes me go to the sauna 3 times a week. So every other night I'm in the sauna. I can't even imagine the pressure you face as a politician. I get paid a lot of money for what I do, and I have an awesome massage therapist. First, I want to hear a big challenge you face that not a lot of people know about, and secondly, how do you face your challenges?
That's another great question. I'll try and give you one that's not the cancer one, since we've already talked about
Let's get
that.
something from your political career, maybe bad PR or a rumor. Surely you've had those challenges.
I think probably, to be honest, one of the biggest challenges has been trying to balance the political work with the day job. So I think a lot of people maybe think that politicians make a lot of money, and maybe that's true to some extent with the federal level folks, but the state level politicians, not a ton of income.
Yeah.
So for those who are like me, that are kind of in your prime business earnings years, where you've got young families, like that can be a bit of a challenging dynamic, is to make sure that you're able to provide for the family still,
Yeah.
because that state rep salary probably isn't enough to do that. So I think for me, one of the biggest tricks has been trying to balance my legal practice, keep that going, keep clients' needs met, while also performing those legislative responsibilities that my constituents expect of me and that they deserve.
Yeah.
And I think that's been something that we've been able to navigate pretty well. But I think it goes a lot to being grounded and focused on faith and trusting God, that God's going to help provide and take care of those needs. So I'd say that's probably a challenge that a lot of people don't necessarily see, that side of especially local elected leaders. Is yes, you have that very public role as an elected official. At the same time, you have a family back home that still needs the same thing that every other family across the state does. They need they need food on the tables and gas in the car and all of that type of thing. So trying to balance all that.
Yeah. I whenever you had pulled in today, my team was like, "Oh, he's a one-man team. Where's the security of this and that?"
That's right.
I've personally had in my business career, I've unfortunately had death threats and bad PR, and everything that comes with my nature of my work and my job. What about yourself? Have you had those death threats? Have you had your family in danger, and if so, how do you protect yourself and your family?
Yeah, the answer to that is yes. Specifically, so a couple of years ago, I was chairing the committee that was dealing with a very hot topic social issue, and the other side on that issue was very angry, and we did receive multiple death threats. Actually got, after the committee hearing ended, there was a bit of a situation with some certain individuals who were there to testify after the committee that was behaving in a very threatening manner. So that does happen, especially on those hot button type of topics
Yeah.
where emotions on both sides run really high. And for me, I'm not as worried about those threats towards me, but when they do come after the family, that
Mm.
is tricky. And as you noted, one man show. I don't have a security team. That's all true. So having to you do have to take steps to keep the family safe and protected,
Yeah.
and um, certainly faith plays a big
Yeah.
piece of that as well.
Well, whenever I'm asked how I navigate and overcome, and this will be my unsolicited or free advice for the day. I had a really successful billionaire once tell me to, of course, not put your address online,
Yeah.
run everything through a PO box, have a secretary and assistant check your mail, just precautionary steps that can honestly many a times play a deciding factor whether or not an attempt is made on you. In addition, just keeping a low profile.
Yeah.
Too many people, they post live. I actually lost a friend of a friend who posted on Instagram live and disclosing his location, and it costed him his life. And so, really important. My team always reminds me to have at least a 12-hour delay in
Mm-hmm.
uploading. And
Mm-hmm.
whenever I travel, I try to do a 24-hour delay at minimum. Sometimes it's 36 hours, 48. Sometimes we'll post a few weeks later.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these just preliminary or steps of precaution help. And I think in some cases, if not many, save or protect your family and loved ones. And so just being very
Yeah.
cautious with, especially
Yeah.
location.
Yeah.
I sometimes marvel. I'll see someone famous like, oh, I'm here right now doing this, and you look like, where you don't have your security detail, and
Yep.
you're just gonna post where you're at. And so being very cautious in that. Let's cover our last topic. So our podcast is called Suits and Shoes. The reason for it is from a young age, growing up really poor and hand-me-down clothes, and my first pair of tennis shoes that I purchased, I had to work a lot of late night and odd end jobs through high school to purchase my first pair of new shoes. And I've always just been very interested in what successful and famous people wear. And so I'll go first. I'll go first. So my go-to shoes recently have been the Cole Haans. They're dress shoes, but they feel like tennis shoes. And then
Nice.
golf pants. I'm in
Nice.
golf pants everywhere. Like
Nice.
most times, I'll be like at a really fancy event. And, oh, those slacks are really nice. I'm like, yep, just another pair of golf pants.
Yep.
And then dress shirts. I don't know if it was my grandma who since passed away or my mom or both. Always really like set a high standard for us, and they'd always say, "Oh, Grandpa worked in construction and he wore a dress shirt even when he worked and operated a crane in construction." And so I have this foundation of always dressing business casual. Like
Yep.
anywhere you'll see me, like when I'm shopping or playing golf, I'm wearing slacks and a dress shirt and tucked in. I don't know why. I just
Yep.
really like tucking in. What about yourself? What clothes do you wear and why?
So I'm in a suit a lot, with what being in the legislature and then being a lawyer. So
Yeah.
I'm in a suit quite a bit. Whenever I'm not, usually dress something like what I am right now, wearing jeans, wearing a flannel shirt, wearing do have quite a few button down just dress shirts. I like polos in the summer.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome. So you're not doing the whole designer thing.
oh no, I'm not me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
That's been a shock. That's probably the biggest shocker that my audience has observed. I've now interviewed, a lot of successful people, yourself included. I'm yet to have anyone say any designer product.
Yeah.
And a few times I've even I once had a very ultra successful individual, and I kind of try to pry him like, do you wear this brand or this brand, or what's your most expensive piece of clothing?
Yeah.
He's like, oh, just this $75 polo.
Right. If you start asking me about brands, I'm probably not going to know what they are.
Yeah,
So,
that's amazing. I think if anyone remembers anything about this conversation, let it be not to waste money on designer brands
Right.
and clothing.
That's
Like,
right.
you could be successful, you can have a position of power and authority, and still be modest and
Yep.
still keep a simple lifetime. There's so much more to life than the clothes that we wear and the shoes that we show
Amen to
off.
that.
Yeah, I like that. What would you like to leave off in regards to final words of encouragement for today's generation? I used to say the younger generation, but we ran our analytics and our age group ranges from like 14 years old to 78, 79 years old. And so we have a wide range of age for our demographics and listeners. So what advice would you like to leave, or words of wisdom for our audience today?
I think it would just be that good old fashioned hard work still pays off, even with all the challenges that we face as a country, as a society. If you work hard, if you do even just a little bit better than the person next to you, someone's going to notice, and you're going to have opportunities through that hard work. The same is true with just being a good human being.
Yeah.
Like, that's true in business, that's true in politics, it's good in every area of life. You don't have to be a slime ball stabbing the guy in the back next to you to get ahead. Actually, that won't get you ahead in the end. It's
Yeah.
gonna come back and bite you. So just being honest,
Yeah.
working hard, being a good person, treating other people well, like all of that is key to success. And if you do those things, you are going to be more successful than the vast majority of the other people out there, because they're not doing all of those things. Maybe they're doing some, probably a lot of them aren't doing any.
Yeah.
But if you do all of them, you're going to do extremely well in life.
Well, my friend, I'm going to say amen to that. Don't do it for the power. Don't do it for the money. Do it just because you're going to do a better and a stronger future, not only for our kids in the state of Missouri, but I still truly believe the greatest country in the entire world.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. You can find us on Instagram, Suits and Shoes, and then Pavel Bosovic, Bosovic with 2 S's. Or you can just type into Google my name, Pavel Bosovic, and there will be a link to our podcast. Make sure you subscribe, like, and follow along as we wrap up season 1, and then tune in for season 2. Thank you. Awesome. You're a natural. Why don't you do more?
Enjoyed the conversation. Thanks for having me.
Why don't you do more?